The kitchen is one of the places in your home that you need to include some universal design properties too. Let's talk about this refrigerator, for example. It's common to recommend a bottom freezer, especially for a seated user because of the ease of access. That's not going to work for everybody. Somebody with a back issue is not going to enjoy bending all the way over at the bottom there to get items out. But a lot of times that bottom freezer works out really well. Let's talk about the way that you open your cabinets and your drawers in your kitchen. Typically, we recommend these D handles because they are easy to access for most people. It's easy to slide your hand in and out of there, or if you have other needs, you can easily, open these with a tool. They're just much easier to open than the type of drawers that have no handles or the knobs that require that pinch or grip. Really nice to have that adaptation. If you take a look around in this space, you'll notice some of the lighting that we have here. The task lighting is really important in a kitchen so that light is distributed evenly. We generally do not recommend track lighting because track lighting causes puddling of light and makes it a little harder for the user to have adequate light for tasks in the kitchen. Also, we always recommend natural source of light whenever possible. If there's a window in the kitchen that can bring in natural light, that's especially helpful for somebody with neurosensory issues, and everybody likes daylight in their kitchen, so that's nice. You can see here that we have some pendant lighting in place, and that is a nice alternative way to light some of the space. You can see here that these are clear with an exposed light bulb. That's not going to work for everybody. It's a little bit harsh for some individuals that might be overstimulated by that. One of the ways that you can take care of that is, in any lighting, is to have an adjustable dimmer switch and for any type of lighting so that you can bring it down for those that like the lower light and bring it way up for those that need more light. When choosing a countertop, make sure that you're taking into account how much glare is coming from that countertop. You want one with less glare so that there's less light reflecting off of that. Here we have a really beautiful countertop, and it has the speckles in it, which are really beautiful, great design feature, but some people find those speckles confusing if they have some visual deficits, and they might confuse this with crumbs or have some depth perception issues. So that's something to keep in mind when you're choosing your countertops. For a lot of people, it's recommended to have a backsplash that is a different color than the workspace, the top itself, because it gives good contrast. For other people, that's not so much of a concern. It's just something to consider when you're designing, universal design. We do recommend having at least one cabinet with a glass front so that frequently used items can be stored here that are easy to see. This is especially helpful for somebody who has memory deficits and is always looking for the sugar. Then you just put it right there where you can see it. Take a look at this drawer. The organization in this drawer is something that's really helpful when considering universal design. It's easy to see all of your items here. They're easy to access. This diagonal organizational tray that's part of this unit is clean and easy to modify as well. And here's another example of something like that. It's really great now that pots and pans can be stored in drawers, or plates can be stored in drawers instead of the typical plates are way up high in the cupboard and somebody has to get them down for you. These pegs can be moved easily to accommodate any size pan, plate, bowl, what have you. And this kind of a situation is a great thing especially for a seated user or somebody with limited reach. Very easy to modify. Take a look at these pull-out shelves that are a nice accessible feature. And these are easily adapted to different depth shelves and different heights. And, you have this indoor storage. Again, you can get so much right here within very easy reach. And this is a popular addition to a kitchen, is the trash in the pull-out drawer. Here's another really great accessible unit that can be added. This is a pull down shelf that is very easy to pull down so that someone with limited reach can access frequently used items with just a simple pull down. There are tools available to allow a seated user to be able to reach that and pull it pull it up and down easily. It's hydraulic, goes back on its own. I wanted to talk for a minute about these little signs that we have posted kind of throughout the Home Accessibility Center here at Disability Advocates. These are all things that are referencing some of the zero-step guidelines by number and by option. And so that's a really helpful thing, especially if you're a builder or designer that's really focusing in on which of these concepts really relate to the zero-step guidelines. It'll point them right out to you. For example, we have this sink that demonstrates that 27-inch height of knee space that's required to clear a sink for a seated user. This is a great example of it. It's also a popular, aesthetically pleasing sink. It's kind of that farmhouse style. This is a nice sink. It's got that great depth if you need it here, but then there's a shelf right here, so a seated user can do a lot of their work, right here. This displays a motion-activated faucet. That's great for hands-free, but not everybody likes that, so it's easily converted to turn off. We recommend these Swan-type faucets with the pull-down sprayer because they require almost no dexterity to use and pretty easy to use. There are other options for faucets with the controls located in the front as well. There's just a lot of options for that. This is a really popular item. This is a dishwasher drawer. These are really helpful for somebody with an assistive device or a seated user. It's not very deep, so it's also really nice for someone with back issues. You don't have to bend very far. These come in a variety of depths, and some are just a little shallow drawer. Others are these kind of medium drawers. We've seen it before where somebody's had one of these and then a shallow drawer right next to it. A lot of great options for that dishwasher drawer. Here in the Home Accessibility Center, we have this induction cooktop. This is a great safety feature to prevent accidental burning because the surface is only hot when the induction pans are placed on it. This greatly reduces the risk of being burnt. I want to point out that this is just a dummy unit. There's no power hooked up to it because you would never want to install a cooking surface with an outlet right behind it. But that was just something that we couldn't work around here. We also want to recommend that one of the zero-step guidelines is to have the stove controls in the front. So if you don't have this type of a unit and you just have a stove, you want to have those controls in the front so somebody's not reaching across that hot surface to turn a burner off. We've all heard those stories of somebody catching their sleeve on fire in a hot burner. It's important that you include a lot of free counter space in between your cooking surface and your sink and your oven so that there's room to transfer items as needed and to kind of have all that prep space located in a condensed area. Here you can note that we have this counter space here for this, what could be a microwave, but also this is a toaster oven. And that's really accessible for a lot of people to be able to get right to their oven right there on the countertop. Take a look at this space underneath the counter. This is really helpful for a seated user to be able to roll up under the counter and have great access to their prep space. This is an oven that's installed in the wall, which is a great universal design feature because the oven can be placed at any height for any user. Someone that is of small stature can put this lower. Someone that's very high can put it up higher. If you're really fancy, you can have two of them. This is a really nice stove that has a very easy to pull out shelving. It's not like the ones that we've had in our house for many, many years where the things don't pull out easily. This unit also comes with a door that opens from the side. It depends on the user, but sometimes that's a lot more accessible to be able to have it open from the side and have a shelf that pulls out underneath it, allows the seated user to transfer their hot dish from that shelf right onto that free counter space that I mentioned and, be able to slide it over as needed. Another universal design principle is to have different counter heights available in your kitchen so that those of different heights or those that are seated users all have a workable space to work on. This is a great example of that. There's a couple different ways you can design that, more than a couple. Here's something to remember is the placement of an outlet. Outlets typically are very low to the ground, very hard to access, and a universal design principle is to place the outlets at an accessible height. Here's a great example of usable space underneath our different height countertops. This is great for a seated user to be able to get right up underneath there and access what they're working on right up close to them. Here at the Home Accessibility Center, we have our microwave installed in the lower cabinet like this, and this is great for a seated user or somebody with limited reach that doesn't want to go up overhead. We do not recommend placing the microwave over the stove like has been done for many, many years. That's just a really dangerous design principle where people have to reach up over, possibly hot items, boiling water just to get into the microwave. It's just a bad idea. This isn't going to work for everybody. This is great for a seated user, not for somebody with a back issue, but it's just something to be able to consider when you're making your design changes. Here in the Home Accessibility Center, we have some examples of different height toe kicks. In the kitchen, this is really important for somebody with a mobility device that has footrests that might, require a little bit more clearance. So there's this one. And, this is really similar. And then this is more of a traditional toe kick. And it's nice to have that option to take a look at when you're designing your universal home.
If you have any questions or want to learn more, please reach out to us. We would love to give you a tour and help you on your journey to making sure that the spaces you're building are accessible for all people.